Welcome to another time of missionary stories. Today, I'd like to give us the story of a British missionary who was called Gladys Aylward. She was born in the year 1902 by her parents as one of the three children they got. The parents were called, the father was Thomas John Aylward, he was a postman, and the mother was called Rosina. Gladys grew up in Edmonton, which is North London. And in her early teens life, she began doing domestic service, and at age 18, she got born again. Now, as she continued, she felt that God was calling her to do missionary work in China. And so she enrolled in a 3 months preparatory course in the China Inland Mission, which we said was begun by Hudson Taylor, as I gave his story. Now, eventually, this mission rejected Gladys because they said that she lacked education, of her lack of education, and advanced age. Mind you, this time she was only 28 years, but they said because of those two reasons, she was incapable of learning the Chinese language. She did not give up. She did not give up. She got so determined. She continued working and saving her meager, very little salary. She also got some side jobs to do and would save as much as she could in order to get enough money to go to China. And her desire was to go there fully self-supported. So in the year 1932, she left Liverpool, set off from Liverpool, with her lack of education and only about £2. She also had a tattered suitcase, which was full of food and clothes. Now this money she had saved was not enough for her to go by ship. So she traveled by train through Siberia and then used a boat, a bus, and a mule through Japan, and finally came to the mountainous region of Yangcheng in northwest China, which is actually just south of present-day Beijing. When she came here in Yangcheng, she found another Scottish missionary by the name Jenny Lawson. Now they became a team, and because they did not want to threaten the people, the Chinese people, and because also they wanted to use practical ways of reaching the Chinese people, they opened an inn for traveling laborers. An inn is like a hotel, a motel, a lodging. So they opened that where the people would come and be refreshed before they continue with their journeys. And in the evenings, they used to entertain them as their way of being hospitable to them. They used to entertain them by giving them stories about Jesus Christ. That was very creative. And as they did that, the Chinese people loved the stories of Jesus and would repeat them in their journeys. Now, as they continued to minister, God began working in the hearts of the Chinese people. They began to understand the message of Christ, and that message reached their hearts. And eventually, whatever the China Inland Mission was had assumed about this lady was proven to be wrong, because she became fluent in the Chinese language and even their lifestyle. She also obtained Chinese citizenship in the year 1936. Now, because of her works, she got so much respected by the Chinese people in Yangcheng that the government officially appointed her as a food inspector. And this is because there is a law that had been passed against foot binding at that time. What was foot binding in China in those days? It was a custom where they used to take young girls and would break their feet and tightly bind them together in order to change their shape and size. They said that this was a symbol of status and that it was a mark of feminine beauty. But they were so wrong. They were so wrong because this foot binding was very painful. It limited the mobility of these girls, and it also brought lifelong disabilities. So she was appointed to make sure to administer that law which had been passed recently that time, so that that custom would not continue among young girls. Now the altered feet of these girls was called lotus feet, and they used to make special shoes for them called lotus shoes. It was a terrible thing. Anyway, this appointment into this role gave her more open doors to share the gospel as she traveled in many regions. Now, because of the good work she did, the people of Yangchen christened her the name Aylward, which means the virtuous one. She also got another name, the little woman, and that was because of her height. She was 4 feet 10. Now remember the Scottish missionary she used to work with? Eventually she died, she passed on, but Gladys continued with the work of the orphanage. Then in the year 1938, Japan invaded China and they were dropping bombs everywhere. And Gladys, and this is one of the things that she's really known for, Gladys rescued about 100 children. And she did that through walking with them through dangerous mountains and even crossing the Yellow River. And eventually she was able to take them to one orphanage in Xi'an. Because of this traveling, because it was a long distance, she got sick, and for the rest of her time, she suffered ill health. However, her ill health did not stop her from ministering. She continued to minister to the injured people in the war. She also founded a church in Xi'an, and she used to minister. She used to minister at the lepers settlement there. Now, not only that, she used in all these endeavors to preach the gospel of Christ to these people. In 1947, Gladys returned to England and spoke extensively, and also founded the Gladys Aylward Charitable Fund for orphans. In 1953, she returned to China on the east side, and in 1955, she began an orphanage in Taipei, Taiwan. And that ministry still continues. The Taipei ministry still continues to date under the name Bethany Children's Home. Now this lady did amazing things in China. And because of that, a movie was done about her life. The movie was done in 1958. It's called The Inn of the Sixth Happiness. You can look out for that. When you go to YouTube, there are many movies or documentaries done about her life. And one of those is called Gladys Aylward, the small woman with a great God. Before her death, she wrote, "My heart is full of praise that one so insignificant, uneducated, and ordinary in every way could be used to his glory for the blessing of his people in poor, persecuted China." And here are some quotes by this lady. One, she said, "Oh God, here is my Bible, here is my money, here is me. Use me, God." Another one, "Here I was worrying about my journey while God was helping me all the way. I made me realize that I am very weak, my courage is only borrowed from Him, but oh, the peace that flooded my soul, because I know that He never faileth. I would not, if I could, turn back now, because I believe that God is going to reveal Himself in a wonderful way." The last quote, I wasn't God's first choice for what I've done in China. I don't know who it was. It must have been a man, a well-educated man. I don't know what happened. Perhaps he died. Perhaps he wasn't willing. And God looked down and saw Gladys Aylward. And God said, well, she's willing. She's willing. So today, let the story of Gladys Aylward be an encouragement to you. Maybe people have discouraged you because you don't have enough education. Maybe people have told you that you are advanced in age. Maybe people have told you you are not unique, you are not special, you are not talented, you are not gifted. Let me encourage you today that God loves using ordinary people like Gladys Aylward to do amazing things, to do extraordinary things. You just have to be available for God to use you. So I hope this story is an encouragement to you. Be determined. If you feel God has called you to serve Him, go out and do what the Lord has called you to do. May the Lord bless you and see you next time.